going on, Seahawks fans? We've got breaking news around left tackle Charles Cross. Now, I don't know if this is necessarily the breaking news that you were all hoping for when it came to Charles Cross. I'm not going to lie, when I saw that there was an Ian Rappaport tweet that came across my timeline, I went, oh boy, Charles Cross. Hopefully that's something about his injury update. It is not, but I will say in the long run, this might be the better Charles Cross news that we are going to get. Make sure that you subscribe to Seahawks Today, because the minute that there is breaking news, I'm going to get that content out to you ASAP. Now, what did Ian Rappaport let us know? It's that Charles Cross and the Seattle Seahawks have agreed to terms on a 4-year contract extension that's going to be worth $104.4 million. I should also mention that $75 million of that is going to be guaranteed. And when it comes to Charles Cross, I think that the Seahawks have one of the best young left tackles in the National Football League. Remember, he was born in 2000, so he's only 25 years young. That means that Charles Cross still has lots of room to grow, and I think the Seahawks, you pay a little bit extra right now for Charles Cross, but you don't let him get to the market. I think that was a smart move there by the Seahawks, John Schneider, and I also think that the Seahawks did a great job of getting Cross on a team-friendly deal. Now, when you look at the money right now, and you look at how high he is compared to the other left tackles when it comes to pay. By the way, according to some of the other sites where they do a lot of this tracking, most importantly over the cap, right now he would be the third highest paid left tackle in the National Football League. You pay money now that you know will look like a better deal later on in that terms, in the terms of that contract. What I mean by that, if you are the Seattle Seahawks, paying Charles Cross a fat contract right now will look a lot better in 4 years, because that money is only going to go up and up and up as the next players become due. If the Seahawks had waited for more of the tackles and offensive linemen that are contract eligible to have their contracts come up, they would have had to pay Charles Cross more, because the average would have gone up, because more guys would be making more and more money. That's why I think it's a brilliant move by the Seahawks to go in and pay Charles Cross right freaking now. Pay him as soon as possible. You know that Charles Cross is a good tackle. You know that you want him here for the long haul, and you've seen what your team is since he's been injured without him. And while Jones has been fantastic, Josh Jones, that isn't filling in for him, he's a journeyman offensive lineman. That's not a guy that you can say, well, he's going to be the backup for Charles Cross for the next 15 years. He's not going to be there. So when you look at what your backup situation is going to be like, when you have a tackle who can be a star in the National Football League, or at the very worst be a good, solid starter, you pay the man. I'm fired up with what the Seahawks did, because I also think in the long run, this is going to be massive for them. If you're fired up for the Seahawks signing Charles Cross to this extension, go in the comment section and spam 67. Not because we're doing this, but because his number is 67. Spam 67 if you're fired up for Charles Cross to stay here in Seattle. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into this as well when I'm talking about Charles Cross and what the Seahawks are building. Remember, earlier on in the off season, or right at the beginning of the 2025 season, the Seahawks went in and they signed Abe Lucas to a 3-year contract extension. The Seahawks now, for the next 3 years, have locked up their right tackle and their left tackle. Two guys who, again, are more than serviceable when it comes to starters in the National Football League. In fact, they are above average, more than above average when it comes to starting offensive tackles. And what I think you're starting to see in this Clint Kubiak offensive system is the Seahawks understanding where they need to run the ball, and the running game is continuing to improve. What the offensive line has done a great job is game after game improving on the things that they need to, getting to linebackers sooner, getting defensive linemen blown off the football. And by locking in your two tackles, the two hardest positions on the offensive line to go and find players, frankly, it just is easier to find guards. It's not an attack on guards and centers. They're just more of those guys out there to be able to be as fast as a tackle needs to be and as strong as a tackle needs to be. They're just hard guys to find. When you have your two tackles locked down, you are now setting up this offense to continue to push forward this next season and the season after that and the season after that. It's clear that the Seahawks have entered themselves into a now window, a window that I don't know that most of us Seahawks fans necessarily thought would have happened as quickly as it has been. So since it has opened, it is smart for the Seahawks to sign Cross to this extension as well as Lucas. I'm going to dive into what that means also more in a little bit, but I need to let you know that this episode is brought to you by our good friends over at PrizePicks. Whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard. But in life and on PrizePicks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never stops, and PrizePicks lets you take control. New feature alert! PrizePicks now has early payouts. If your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. Find your community on PrizePicks with the new social feeds feature. You can share PrizePicks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow PrizePicks partners like us and tailor-fade our picks with just one click. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Okay, so the Seahawks being in a win-now mode, they had to lock up those offensive linemen. So Charles Cross, he's locked up. You're good to go there. That also means that Abe Lucas is locked up because you signed him earlier. Now, Gray Zabel, he just got drafted. He's got at least 3 more years to go because it's a 4-year with a team option on that 5th. After seeing what we've been seeing, I think the Seahawks are going to take that 5th year. So you've got 3 of your 5 offensive linemen locked up for the next however many years that you need. Now, there are also going to be a decent amount of players that need to be signed or are going to want to be signed. What do I mean by that? A guy like a Kenneth Walker, who's going into a contract year. He will be a free agent. Seattle has to be aware of that, and they have to do a good job of trying to find a way to bring him back. Now, the Seahawks, it is clear if they're going to sign a Charles Cross, they are in win-now mode. That means I think you're going to see Rashid Shaheed get brought back. 2 players that, look, they're going to command a decent chunk of change on the free agent market. Seattle has to do it. You've already shown your hand that you're going to go, I don't want to say necessarily all in, but you're definitely putting your eggs in the basket of this team. This team right now, this year, has a shot to win a Super Bowl, but could you potentially become a dynasty? And if you don't win this year, Seattle is now putting themselves in a great position to be able to continue to win in the future. I love what the Seahawks are doing here. I love that they went out and basically signed this great contract extension with Charles Cross, and they did it in a way that Seattle hasn't necessarily always done. Seattle has been known to kind of wait until a player is completely ready to be signed. And what do I mean by that? I mean that their contract is up and they're doing the negotiations in the free agency or in the final year of that contract. With Charles Cross, they went and took care of it right now. Trust me, I know that the first year he's getting $40 million. I know that. It's going to be worth it in the long run. I love this contract signing for the Seahawks, and it shows to me that they are serious about winning, because there's a lot of franchises right now in the National Football League and in sports in general that are not serious about winning football games. So the fact that Charles Cross is staying, man, that's massive. The Charles Cross extension was a steal for the Seahawks. Agree or disagree? Let me know down below in the comment section. You know that I think that it is a steal. And while it might be a little bit higher of a price tag right now, it's going to look more and more favorable as the years on that contract continue to go along. Every next guy who is due their money is going to make more and more and more. It's called keeping up with the Joneses. We all do it in the National Football League. Charles Cross getting paid right now. By the time we get to the end of that 4th year, we're going to be saying, wow, Charles Cross, barely top 15 paid tackles? That's a pretty damn good deal. Think about it. Patrick Mahomes got a, $500 million offer, and I think you can make the argument right now that he is underpaid, and that wasn't all that long ago. So I'm glad that Charles Cross got re-signed with the Seahawks. I'll tell you right now, I think it was a hell of a steal. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys next time.